What's up, you guys? My name is Jesse Palin. Today we are going to be talking about a little heavy kind of stuff today, you know. I want to talk to you guys about my first time in Hawaii and like my experience going out there and some of the things that I went through. I feel like the stuff that I went through and like the things I learned are valuable, and I hope you find them valuable too. Because there's a lot of people I think that are our age, or my age, you know, 26 and younger even, that just don't fall into the same category as everyone else. And dude, you gotta just live your own life. And so this is my little story about how I entered that. Right now I'm currently in Reno, staying here with a good old friend of mine. So the story kind of starts, I went, you know, I did the thing, like I got a job and went to college right after high school. And I didn't actually want to go to college. The only reason why I went was because my friend like made me sign up when we were in high school one day. And so I ended up taking a couple classes, and it was like working this 40-hour-week job, taking care of a girlfriend at the time, and like living at my mom's. The whole thing was like a freaking mess and a half. Got out of that relationship, went on to the next semester. I think I had like all of my classes set up. I even got a job at a good restaurant that was down the street. I was going to be a waiter, and I had a really cool car. I had a 98 Firebird V8, the LS1 engine. It was super cool. I just had this beautiful girlfriend at the time. It's like the things that you'd think that you want, right? In college. But like I just wasn't happy. I was like, dude, there's gotta be more than this. There's gotta be more to life than just living this like, gotta do this, this, and this, and this, and this. Like, I just didn't want to do that. And so I ended up quitting my job and dropping out of college and saying goodbye to my girlfriend, and like bought a plane ticket like 2 days after making that decision. It was like, I'm gonna go to Hawaii and I leave in 2 days. That's literally how it happened. And that's kind of how I do things even now. I just kind of like, all right, time to go, time to go, time to go. As soon as I can go, I leave. So yeah, sold the car, had like $7 grand in my pocket. I didn't know what was gonna happen. And I actually was able to go and live with my grandma right in Waikiki, which is on Oahu. People know it as like Honolulu. But right in Waikiki, just a couple blocks away from the beach. And yeah, I was just like surfing and having fun for the first few months. Got myself a little moped. And the money started dwindling down. My grandma kept telling me, you're gonna run out of money, you're gonna run out of money. And I kept telling her like, I'm fine. But I think it like got in my head. And this is like one of the first lessons I learned, was like, don't let negative people get into your freaking head and convince you of things. Otherwise, like in this situation, I fucking blew all of my money, almost all of my money in like the first couple months, like 3 months, and I was down to like my last $1,000. I don't even know where it went or what happened or what the fuck. It was just like gone. Anyway, I ended up getting a job at Cheesecake Factory. Luckily, like there was like several people in the building that I was living at that all worked at Cheesecake Factory, and I was able to use them and like not use them, but they were able to help me get a job there, because the only way to get a job there at Cheesecake Factory is to kind of like know someone and have an in. And I never told anyone this up until now, but I'll fucking tell you guys because I don't care anymore. I told them that I had waiter experience, but I had none. Zero, zilch waiter experience. I mean, I have now, of course, but I told them that I had it because I was like, dude, either I'm gonna make $9 an hour working as a host, or I'm gonna make like $30 an hour or more working as a waiter. I'm gonna be a waiter. I'll tell them I have waiting experience. I'm fully capable of being a waiter. I don't need to be a host for fucking a year and a half like some of the other people there to be able to be a waiter. I'm fully competent to do it. Went through all my little exams and stuff, became a waiter, And my grandma like left Mexico, and I had the house to myself, and it was really cool because I just like would just take my surfboard out and just walk straight to the beach. Just me and my board shorts and my surfboard, walk to the beach, not even wear shoes or a t-shirt. The job was right down the street. I had the moped, so I could kind of like explore and see around, and it was a really cool experience. And it was kind of funny because once I had everything, you know, I was like, okay, I got a moped, I have a couple friends, I have a job, I have a place to stay, and I was like, at that moment, literally I was there for like maybe a couple months, and I was already like, I think I'm ready to go to the next place. Because without necessarily fully knowing it, I think I wanted to just have the confidence, and I have like I wanted to know that I could do it, that I could go somewhere and just fucking make it happen for myself, which I know today that I can do. You don't need $7 grand. If you have $2,000, that's more than enough to move anywhere on the fucking planet, in my opinion. It might be a little struggle at first, but if you got $2 grand, you can go anywhere. And honestly, you can go anywhere with no money, but we'll get to that later. As long as you can get there, you know. So that was that. Grandma ended up coming back, and so I moved out, and I moved in with some roommates, and I had like, it was like a 2-bedroom apartment, like on like the 13th story, I think, or something. And then there was like 5 of us guys living inside of this little tiny apartment. It was the craziest thing. Like, no intimate moments with women. Everyone's all involved with everyone. Everyone's like passing through each other's rooms. It just doesn't even happen. I met some great people and some really talented musicians, and that's who I was staying with. And then a good guy named Jeff and Kieran. Like, all good people, none of which I even talk to these days, but I mean, it happens. I don't talk to really anyone from high school either. But yeah, so I got to know these guys, and things, you know, start getting rocky and stuff, because people get just butthurt about shit. There was all these rules, and I was just trying to live like as good as I possibly can, and being honest with them and being their friend, but sometimes things just don't work out. You know, other people go through shit, you go through stuff, you're trying to work through things, you live with people for the first time. But moving on from there, there was a point, I think, I don't know, maybe like around like 8 months or something like that, being in Hawaii, where I tried mushrooms for the first time, and actually with my roommates. And it was just like a chocolate heart mushroom thing, and I took that, and we like ran around Waikiki a little bit into the park, and it was actually a really beautiful experience. It was the first time I ever felt really connected to everything around me. Up until that moment, I never even thought that I was connected to like this grass and the earth and everything that's around you, which is just so important. And what so many like ancient and native cultures teach is that, you know, that you are connected to everything around you, that you are part of everything around you. And I think as an American society, and like the religions and stuff that we're taught in Christianity, they don't teach that at all. Nobody teaches that. Not, at least I didn't learn it. And I went to fucking so much church and read the whole Bible, but it was just like, it wasn't there. And I remember that day, just like you see all the beautiful things that the hallucination makes you see, and looking at trees and feeling them, I felt like I could see the trees breathing. And I remember thinking about like my life and how everything just, my friend was like, he's like, think about how everything in life led you to this moment right now. And I was like, okay. I just laid down on the grass and looked up at the sky, and just started thinking about it. And just like, my mind just rapid fires, just playing through videos of everything I had experienced up until that moment. And it was beautiful. And then there was a moment where like it just collected, and I came back to where I was there and now. And yeah, I felt really happy. That experience went on to several other mushroom trips later. My second mushroom trip with my good friend Micah at the time, where I got even deeper connected to nature and everything else around me. We ended up doing them in the jungle up by some waterfalls. And I remember coming back that night and sitting on my little porch thing. And, we were talking about like religion and Jesus and stuff. And I grew up with like religion and stuff, and not that I like. It was just something that I did because I was taught to do it, not because I cared about it. I never really liked church or anything like that. I always thought that the kids there were weird, and the whole thing was just weird and uncomfortable, and I hated Sundays for the longest time because of it. But I remember that we were just sitting there, and he's like, yeah, dude, like Jesus isn't like the only like God, dude. And then I was like, dude, you know what? You're so right, man. And I realized that because I realized how like everybody's a person, everyone's equal, and it's your connection to God or the universe or nature, whatever you see it as, that defines you. And like at that moment, I felt this thing like leave my body and watched it. It was like this black spirit. I remember it like floated out of me like 6 feet in front of me, and then looked at me for a second. It was like, and I was like, ah! and then it flew away and disappeared. It was just the wildest experience ever. And because the thing was too, it was at the end of the trip. You know, like the hallucinations were done, but I still saw that, and it was an incredible experience. I'll never forget that. Yeah, it was literally like this dark thing that was like plaguing me left. It was amazing. The more I talk about this, the more I realize like the first experience in Hawaii is just a summary of the mushroom trips that I had. But really, if I'm going to talk about what I learned, a lot of the things that I learned came from the mushroom trips. And if you don't know anything about mushrooms, maybe you do, but if you don't, mushrooms are an amazing psychedelic that people have been using for thousands of years and forever. And they really allow you to connect with nature, what's around you. They allow you to dig inside of yourself and pull out these things and face these things that maybe you weren't facing before. It was really good and healthy for me. I'm so happy that they exist, and I got to have that experience because, you know, I've been through a lot of stuff when I was a kid and stuff, and like parenting and where I grew up and blah blah blah. But and mushrooms definitely helped me through that. One of my mushrooms trips, I remember like I drove me and my friend up on my moped up to Diamond Head, and we both took like I think like 4 grams of mushrooms. Oh yeah, by the way, if it's your first time doing mushrooms, maybe take 1 gram, maybe 2 grams. But if you really want to have some fun, you got to take 1/8, which is 3.5 grams. Yeah, 5 grams you start doing. Then it starts getting really exciting. 7 grams, we'll get to that. So 4 grams in, we go down and warm up, stretch. Mushrooms are like kind of starting to like give the body high. Hop in the water, and then we start surfing. To this day, one of the most beautiful surfing sessions I've ever had in my entire life, might be the most. I just remember like paddling out there and a wave just coming. You don't like, it kind of gave me tunnel vision. I didn't see everything around me. I just saw where I was, where my friend was, and where the wave was coming from. I don't remember like being like, I'm gonna go out to that wave like I typically would do when I'm surfing. It wasn't like that. I just paddled out and like, okay, there's a spot where the waves were coming, and I just caught wave after wave after wave after wave after wave. And I remember like paddle, get on the wave, boom, oh, it felt so good. In front of me is just Diamond Head and all its glory. It's just beautiful blue skies, everything around me, living in Hawaii. I look down, and below me there's beautiful reef and just fish, yellow, green, blue, orange, red, just swimming by me, swimming next to my surfboard, almost looking like they're following me, and I'm just cruising down the line of the wave, enjoying all this. Oh my gosh. The wave stops and I go back, paddle out, catch a few more. There was one point where I just paddled out there, and I remember my friend had like a big scar on his headlight here. I can't remember what happened, but he had a big scar here, and I looked at his face, and like he had his one eye right here, but then this eye didn't exist, and he just had the eye where his scar was. And I looked at him and I was like, oh, I can't be staring at that right now. We paddled for a few more waves. And then there was a point where I was like, okay, the mushrooms are really starting to set in. I'm getting a little anxious now being in the water, so I'm going to paddle in, do. And then just lay down on the beach there in the sun, just focusing on absorbing all the energy around me and all the beauty and everything. If you know anything about mushrooms, you're not hungry. You don't feel hungry, but you have like incredible energy. I've found, for me, I have incredible energy. Like I could just sprint forever as long as I wanted when I'm on mushrooms. And like surfing, I didn't even feel tired or anything at all. Pain almost doesn't exist. Like, you know, like if you take your shoes off and you walk on some like kind of sharp rocks, they're not necessarily puncturing your feet, but if you're walking on sharp rocks, it hurts. It doesn't hurt. Or it doesn't hurt me, at least, when I'm on mushrooms. Don't even feel it. I'm just like, yeah, these are just rocks. Pain doesn't exist. Whatever. West Side. I don't know why that was a thing, but so just kind of meditated there on the beach. I remember my friend coming in, and he meditated too. And another just amazing experience. And like, again, doing these mushrooms is just a way for me to connect, and my way of exploring spirituality and exploring my spirit and myself, and like just pulling these things out of yourself that like you maybe didn't see before, or you forgot. And it was just such a beautiful and healthy experience for me. I remember doing mushrooms in one of the old volcanoes that was there in Oahu with my really good friend and his girlfriend, and just sitting there. And I won't get into too much detail because I think that mushroom experiences are your own, and there's some things that you just have to keep to yourself. But basically the summary of that trip was nothing matters. A lot of people, I'll lose them on this one. They'll be like, nothing matters. Well, everything matters to me. Woo. But yeah, I really figured out like all these things that you think matter. You gotta get a job, you got a career, you gotta go with this, you gotta do that, blah 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 blah. None of that matters. None of it actually matters. Like on the big, large span of Earth and everything, none of that shit actually matters. And that's where you can find peace. Is inside of that, because people are so stressed out about all these things they feel like they have to do. Okay, I have to go to college, I have to go get a degree, I have to go get a job, I have to go get a girlfriend or a wife, a boyfriend, whatever, and then get married, and we have kids, and like you can go so sucked into that you lose yourself. You forget what you're about, You forget what you want and you don't live the way you want to live. And everybody needs to live exactly the way that they want to live, that their soul is yearning to live. There's so many different ways to live, and you don't need to fall into society's trap of do this, do this, do this, do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, go do that. Like, you don't. You don't. That can work for some people, but it doesn't have to work for everyone. And I think this is huge. As a millennial, as like millennials in general, I think that a lot of us have this same feeling that I'm talking about. We're like, dude, I can't go work for these useless businesses and get nothing out of it, that I'm not doing anything. I don't want to get paid like shit to be a slave. Like, I can't do that. I don't want to do that. I deserve better than that. I am worth more than that. I know my worth, and I'm worth more than that. And you are too. You have to find out your worth. The beauty in nothing matters is that there's nothing to be stressed about. You can simply live your life. Just Hakuna Matata all the way. Hakuna Matata. Just Hakuna Matata. The bare necessities. You know that song? The bare necessities of life will come to you. They'll come to me. They'll come to you. And it's true. Like, the basic necessities you'll always have. Don't ever fear not having those, because they'll come to you. Unless you're just dug a hole for yourself and you're doing nothing and just sleeping inside of that hole. Honestly, you still have a place to sleep. Somebody will probably throw food and water at you. You'll be fine. You'll be just fine. Nothing matters, so don't be stressed. All these things. Stress. Don't trip. Don't trip, but go ahead and trip. You know. And then there was a point where I went too far. I went too far with mushrooms. In many societies, there'll be like shamans who will guide you on your trip, and they'll help. They'll like watch over you and make sure that you're going the right way, that you're moving past these things. And maybe I don't know, because I've never worked with a shaman before, but maybe they're like explaining these things to you and like what you need to know. Or even afterwards they talk to you and tell you about what you need to know. For this last one, like, I didn't have that. For none of these did I actually have that. I didn't actually really necessarily, I think after that one, the Nothing Matters trip, that's when I needed one. It was like at that moment, because I was literally about to just be like, okay, well, fuck society, like, I'll just go be a monk somewhere. And just chill, because you don't have to have any stress. You can just live your life and focus on meditation and being one with your spirituality, and like live communally. And yeah, that idea was really romantic to me at the time. I remember telling my friends, like, let's just go be monks, and they were like, no, we're not ready for that. I don't want to do that. I want to be here. I was like, man, you guys don't want to go be monks with me? Come on. That was when I probably should have got some guidance. Man, was it after that trip? I think I came back and I quit my job. I came back and I quit my job at Cheesecake Factory. I think it was, actually, yeah. I remember I talked to one of my managers. And that was a really beautiful experience too. Like, so I went in and the Cheesecake Factory, and there's this back room, right? It's called the Sunset Room, because it gets the sunset. And I remember just going back there and just telling one of the managers, hey, I need to talk to you for a minute. And he's a really great guy. And he's like, okay, just wait here. And I go in there, and then I go and sit down at this table, and then randomly this little white seabird appears. And it's like this little fluffy tiny thing. It's this little fluffy tiny thing with this little black beak. And it was super cute. Like, looked like something off of Star Wars or something. Some little fluffy creature thing. And I was just looking at it and appreciating it. And I was so thankful that that little bird was there, because I felt like I was that little bird. Later I would find out that that little bird is a white fairy tern, and it grows to be this beautiful, majestic white seabird with a little pointy black beak. Beautiful birds, that's all we need to say. So, in the Bible, there's a story about how, was it like Noah's Ark, when like the dove comes back and it has like some kind of little thing or whatever, you know, where it's like, hey, it's good to go back to the land or whatever now. I don't know, I kind of took it as a sign, like, hey, Jesse, like, you're doing the right thing. Like, you're on your way, dude. Just keep going. Remember I walked away from the bird for just a second and was talking to my friend. I turned around like 30 seconds later and the bird was gone. Poof, never seen it again. So crazy. This little bird like can't even fly, so I didn't even know what happened. I was like, what the heck? I talked to my manager, and super cool guy. God, I really wish I remembered his name. I want to say a name, but I don't want to get it wrong. And I told him, I was like, hey, I just need to talk to you, and I talked to him about like, hey, I need to quit this job. You know, put in my 2 weeks, and I don't think I wanted to put in my 2 weeks. I just wanted to like leave and never work there again. But you know, people are like, oh, you gotta put in your 2 weeks, blah blah blah, for convenience for them. But he was like super nice to me, and he just he wanted to make sure that I was okay, and he was like, thank you for talking to me. He said he felt really good that I came to him to talk about these things with. He was a really great guy, playwright, and I found out a year later that he committed suicide, and I was so bummed out that he did that, man. I was like, I felt so robbed of an opportunity to get to know this guy, and to like be his friend and like work with him and act in some of the plays that he was writing. I would have loved to be able to do that. And I would actually, even to this day, if those plays are around, I would love an opportunity to read them and act in them. So I went on from there, left the Cheesecake Factory that day, and I ended up working a few more times. I should have got some kind of advice, or I wish I had found someone to talk to me, you know, about this new phase in life that I was going through, because it's not something you should ever be going through alone. You definitely need some guidance to go through it. When you start learning all of these things and it's just crushing and destroying everything you thought you knew, everything changes. I remember my brother-in-law telling me once when I was in high school, like, this world isn't what you think it is. And I was like, what does he even mean by that? I mean, at that point I understood. I was like, okay, it ain't what I thought it was. I remember actually calling them and talking to my sister and my brother-in-law, because they were the only ones I felt like I could talk to about this, that were in my family, that would understand the things that I experienced and that I went through, because it was such an intense experience. Remember, I talked to them on the phone, and I was telling them how like I had experienced these things on mushrooms, and how like I was so excited to be alive, and that there were so many things I could do, and I was just so looking forward to just living life and all the things that you get to learn and all the books you get to read, because like really you can just get hyped on being able to fucking live. But so many people don't do that. They're not hyped on being able to be alive. But there's a billion reasons that you should be hyped to be alive, because there's so much you can do with your life, and you can do it. Don't believe what other people tell you. So I went on from that day, and later, I think a few weeks later, I ended up taking some more mushrooms, and I took 7 grams of mushrooms on the blood moon, which remains to be, to this day, the most intense and terrifying and enlightening experience that I've ever had in my entire life, and maybe even will have up until the day I die. I don't know. I think dying will be more mellow than that day, to be quite honest. I had the whole outer body experience. Let me set up the scene for you, I guess. Uh, so I remember I had these mushrooms and they were still wet, so I didn't actually know how much they weighed. I just kind of did some math for like how much mushrooms usually dry out and how much weight they lose. Don't know how much it was. I just was eating them. It was what I thought was 7 grams, which is I think known as like the heroic dose or the legend dose by like Terrence McKenna or someone. And if you ever take that much mushrooms, please have a shaman. Please have someone there to guide you through it. I wouldn't advise doing it just with your friends or by yourself, unless you're totally ready for that. I was not ready. I experienced really beautiful things. I saw things. I lived lives. I broke down what was really going on, and I saw the world for what it was, and what it is. It freaked me out. It terrified me because I didn't understand it. Less because I didn't understand it, but more because it just totally crushed my ideas of what reality was. Totally crushed it. And there was a moment where I thought that I was like gonna die and go to heaven, and then I didn't, and I thought it was because I didn't believe in Jesus, and I felt like I was in hell. I literally felt like I was in hell. It felt so awful, and I was terrified, and it felt awful, awful, awful. Before that point, it felt great. Everything was going good, and then it started getting real bad. I just remember feeling like I was in hell. I screamed bloody murder on the beach. And yeah, everyone was just me and my friends and some other people were just laying down on the beach. There was the bright, big, huge red moon right in front of us. I screamed as loud as I fucking could, not even on purpose, but just because I was so scared. Jumped up, ran out onto the street, and just laid down in the middle of the road at the end of the block, and laid there in terror, thinking that I was in hell. I remember just being like, fuck, this is so bad. And then I remember saying to myself, God, calling out to something, wanting something to come and help me. And then my friend laid down next to me, and she was like, Jesse, like, everything is okay. Just relax. And right before she came, I had this thought. After I said God 3 times, I had this thought. I was like, okay, if I'm in hell, like, what do I do now? And that lesson actually remains to be an amazing lesson today, and something I want you guys to learn from as well. That, like, if you're in a shitty situation, no matter how shitty it is, even if you're in fucking hell, if you ask yourself, what do I do now? Where do I go from here? Rather than asking why, ask what is my next move? Totally changes everything. She laid down next to me. I listened to her. Told myself, Jesse, just listen to what she has to say. Believe it, because she's saying some nice things. She's like, Jesse, you're a good person. Everything's fine. Like, you're good. Like, sometimes when you take mushrooms, crazy things happen. Like, it's okay. She like helped me up, and then I remember going home, and then I was just. After that, dude, I was terrified. I was just so scared. My ego was ripped to shreds. Everything that was Jesse was gone. Other than my physical body. Like, all these things I'd created and like parts of my personality just gone, shredded apart. All that was left was this like bare physical being of a human. And I remember I was so scared. I hated being alone. The dark was scaring me for days after that. And but I remember a few days after that, I think, or even the next day, like, I went back to my car because I was sleeping in my van. I started writing. I wrote these letters to people in my family that have hurt me, and I wrote a letter to my mom and my adopted father and my actual blood father. wrote forgiveness letters to them. And I remember I called them even and like talked to them and told them that I forgave them. And I remember the men that I talked to, the fathers, they said they were really happy to talk to me, and that I came to them and talked to them because they didn't have the balls to talk to me. They said that they didn't have the balls to talk to me about it. I felt super indestructible. I felt so good. I felt so good. Remember I did there's this little path, and there's this little brick thing in the grass. I remember I wanted to do a backflip, but I was like, okay, maybe I shouldn't do a backflip. Instead, I just ran down the road and then sprinted at the block, jumped onto the block and did a front flip, landed on my feet, bit my tongue, but I was like, yeah, I landed it. I had this new power. It felt really good. It felt godly. It felt like I was really connected to God. You know, the fear finally was gone. This is a really great feeling to have. I think to be able to lock into that same feeling and to hold that, or maybe you wouldn't hold it, maybe you flow through it. You just keep flowing inside of it. That's probably the real thing. You flow inside of it. You don't hold on to it. You flow in that same mindset. And that's when you can do some awesome shit, I bet. Skateboarding or snowboarding, I think. Surfing, yeah. Want to try that. So I went on from that day, and I remember having a phone call with my sister Leilani, and she said that, Jesse, I was telling her because I wanted to go home. I was like, you shouldn't. She's like, you shouldn't come home because you're gonna be going backwards. But I remember that I was still scared after that. I was that moment of triumph only lasted a little while, and I was still so scared. I still didn't want to be alone, and I was living in my car in a van that I had bought, and yeah, I wasn't okay. And I remember I was just like, okay, I have to leave. I have to go to my family. And so I remember I got rid of everything in a day. I literally tried to leave that same day, but I couldn't. There was no plane flight, so I had to come back and make an actual plane flight for the next day. And I remember I gave away my car to my friend, and gave away my surfboards, and gave away gaming stuff, and because I was like, I'll never play video games again. And then I think I sold the moped so that I could buy my plane ticket. Adding this part in this next day, I had to stop because my throat was all super dry. I really couldn't talk anymore. But I missed this part in yesterday's edit because other stuff that happened. So there was a point where this was after my big trip where all my ideas about everything had just been crushed. I went and visited my friend in Mililani, which is the center of the island, and we were supposed to go and hike Stairway to Heaven, which is this ultra legendary hike in Oahu, but it was raining. It was raining that night, and then it was raining the next day, I think, too. And so it was just too sketchy of a hike to do in that situation. So instead, he invited me to go to church, which I was super apprehensive to do. It was a Christian church, but I remember I went anyway. But I remember I was scared to go in. I was I was scared because I was it freaked me out to even go inside of a church. But I don't know, I remember putting my shirt on for some reason and then walking in. I wasn't wearing a shirt, or I changed shirts or something. But we walk in, I remember people smiling at me, saying hello, and I felt really welcome. I felt really happy to be there, actually, and sat down in the very front, and I was singing the songs and stuff and actually enjoying myself. For the first time I felt some little bit of peace lay over me after that first, or not after that first, but after that big trip that I had. And now I remember even more. During the service, they talked about going to Nepal because they were going to go do some missionary work, I think. Or it was either missionary or they were going to go help the earthquake thing. I think they were going to go help with the earthquake because there had been a huge earthquake there, and like a bunch of houses and stuff got busted down, and like people died and stuff, and they were going to go help them, which I thought was like, holy crap, if I was there I could have been dead. Because when I said I wanted to go be a monk, Nepal was the only place I was thinking. I was like, I want to go to Nepal. I want to go to Nepal. For some reason I felt like that was where I needed to go. But I didn't. And when they brought it up, I was like, oh, that'd be super cool to go to. They continued the service, and then the message that day was like, when you get beat up, when you fall down, that you gotta like get up, you gotta pick your shit up, and then just keep going. That was the whole message. When you fall down, get up, keep going. Obviously. But it resonated a lot for me at that moment, and I really enjoyed it. I remember after the service, I actually enjoyed the whole thing so much that I asked the pastor to like pray with me, and to do like the whole like accept Jesus into your life prayer. Remember, he was praying over me. And he was just saying like good things at first, like blessings and stuff. And I remember at one point during the blessings, I felt these wings just come around me and lay around me, just like exactly like an angel wings would feel wrapped around you. Yeah, it was like an angel came behind me and just like held on to me. It was like, hey dude, everything's okay. And at that moment I felt ultimate peace. There was no more fear, there was no more anxiety, anything. Everything was just okay, everything was good. And it was so beautiful. I always remember that. We continued on to do like the whole part where I say like, oh, I like accept Jesus into my heart, my Lord and Savior, da da da. But I remember as I was saying it, I didn't believe it, and it didn't resonate with me. And how could it? How could that possibly resonate with me after everything I experienced on those trips, on my spiritual journeys? How could it possibly resonate with me? I found out the world, like everything was so much more expansive, and everything is just way different than what Christianity ever taught me it was, or anyone ever taught me it was. How could I fall back into that? However, I remember leaving there and feeling really good, feeling like happy and peaceful. Finally, I was like, fuck, finally I feel good again. But it didn't last forever. The feeling went away really soon, and that's what led up to me deciding to go home. So I sold my moped and stuff, and I was like, okay, I'm ready to go home. And my goal was kind of to go further with this religion thing, and see where it would take me, see how I could vibe with it, see how much I really liked it. Thanks you guys so much for watching. I really hope that you did gain something from it. I'm gonna do more of these for sure. I want to catch you guys up to where I am right now, and there's plenty of more lessons that I learned. But yeah, I don't know if I'll lay them out all like lessons and stuff, but it's catchy, so you know. I hope to see you guys all again, and yeah, if you resonated with this, like tell your friends, like show this to people. If you feel like there's value in this, please show other people and share it with them, because people all need to hear these things. Like I want people to just not get stuck doing this like these like things that you have to do, that they say you have to do. You don't have to do that, man. And that's like something that I'm just figuring out even now. But I mean, I'll get into that more later in future videos. But for now, guys,
thank you guys for watching. I'll see y'all later.